Okay, welcome back, everyone. We had previously convened the select board meeting and went into executive session. We're back in public session now. We will start out with resident concerns. If anyone has any issues they'd like to bring forward that are not otherwise addressed in the agenda, please make yourself known. We'll keep it to a 3-minute limit. And as usual, name and street address.
Hi, Deborah Sines, 109 Concord Road. This isn't a question or a concern. It is, I wanted to say that driving east on 2A for many years, I've been noticing that there was still the state sign that said Butterbrook Organic Farm up the road. They went out of business like 18 years ago. So I wrote a little note to Corey York and said, can you have somebody drive a truck into it, or can we contact the state or something to get this taken down, because it's misleading. I swear to you, Corey sent it on to DOT. DOT responded to him and to me, and 5 days later it was gone. Things work sometimes.
Thank you for the happy talk. Okay, anyone else? No, okay. Chair update. We've got a bunch of stuff going on later on today. So I will defer my chair update and refer things over to the town manager.
Thank you. I would like to take the opportunity during my updates to recognize James Cogan. James Cogan is our police chief. He announced recently. Yeah, sure. Yes, absolutely. He announced recently that he's retiring at the end of this month, or March 27th to be exact, after 42 years of service to the community. And he put his whole heart and soul into it. He went to the academy in 1984 and worked a little bit in Maynard. And then when he first started working here, the community was smaller. And as the community grew, he grew into higher ranks in the department. And for the last several years, he's served as our chief. And we issued a press release a few weeks ago announcing it. And I think it provides some really good information about what he's contributed to this community as a DARE officer, as a detective, as a lieutenant, all the different things that he's done here. But I think in the last few years as the chief, he's really brought exactly what we needed to this community. I think policing in this country is complex, and a lot of that complexity a lot of times trickles down into different communities. And if you don't have the right leadership in the department, it can create some issues for a community. And we're very fortunate to have James Cogan as our chief for the last few years through some of that complexity. And I appreciate what he's done for me as a town manager. The police chief is the most high-profile job and the high-profile position that I work with. And having someone like James here has been a pleasure. And we're going to miss him when he retires in a few weeks, but he's not going far. He's still going to be here. Just not as our chief anymore. But I think I just wanted to take a minute and recognize, we announced a transition plan a few weeks ago, but I wanted to make sure that he was able to come here and wish him congratulations and wish you the best. So thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. It has been a blink. Honestly, it's crazy to think about it. Dean, I know you served a long time in the town, but you don't expect the end. You just don't expect you never think about it until you think about it. And it's been really a pleasure. It's been an honor. It's been an extreme challenge, which I honestly enjoy. I love a challenge, and I think it's been a role that I learned so much in serving as the chief and as the deputy chief from the previous chiefs. But I am just so thankful that I was able to spend my entire career in one place, a place that I live. I've raised my family here. I really enjoy the people in this town. I think we have a great leadership team, and I am thankful for everyone that allowed me the opportunity to serve in this role. So my thanks to all of you as well.
Well, Chief, remain standing for a moment.
And it's not the end. It's a new beginning.
Yes, true, true. I'm looking forward to that. Little nervous, but.
So I would just like to acknowledge that I was working part-time at the station as a dispatcher when Jimmy came on. And, at that point, the dispatchers were considered sort of the lowest possible level of anything. And Jimmy always treated me with courtesy and respect, and I've always appreciated that, and that's the kind of man he is. And we're certainly going to miss him. Everything that John has said is absolutely true. This has been a really tough time for law enforcement. I appreciate your dedication. And we'd like to present you with this Isaac Davis coin as a little memento of our respect. Chief?
Thank you so much.
Thank you much.
Thank you
for your service.
Thank you. Very nice. Well, thanks again. And as Dean alluded to, Jimmy is, when you're my friend, you call me Jimmy. Obviously, my name is James Cogan, and I prefer the unofficial documentation, but if I see you around town, say, hey, Jimmy, how are you? So thanks again for everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Under more pleasant business continues. Item 3, announce nominees for Colonel Francis Faulkner Senior Exemplary Volunteers of the Year Award. So I guess I'll start off. My nominee this year will be Lori Cooney, who has served for many years on the Council on Aging, Community Preservation Committee, Cable Advisory Committee, and Minuteman Senior Services. Who's next? Alyssa.
My nominee this year is Joe Robb, who's currently the chair of the Water Resources Advisory Committee.
David.
My nominee or recipient this year is Greg Jarbo. He's been on a number of committees, including the Select Board back in the day, and is now on the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Fran.
My nominee is Nancy Kolb, who is currently the chair of the Acton Housing Authority.
Jim.
My nominee is Joan Burrows. She's helped start this Commission on Disabilities in 1989, and she's still serving on it. She's been the heart and soul of that commission for a long time.
All right. We will be having a formal presentation at the 17 Woodbury Lane a little bit later in the month. Sure. David.
Could we just say that exact day and time for the public? I think it's April 15th at 5 o'clock. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Getting a nod from Lisa. That's correct. And it'll be a great opportunity to sort of showcase one of the more controversial projects in town. Before I proceed, I remembered I stepped on a few people's toes and didn't give my colleagues an opportunity to give their updates. Alyssa.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to one more time announce that the Acton Water District Annual Meeting is this Wednesday, March 18th at 6 p.m., and it's taking place in the Public Safety Facility. And I guess, speaking of water, tonight will be a movement of amphibians across the roads because it is wet and warm. It's going to be above 40 overnight, so please drive slowly. Keep an eye out for amphibians, but also our crossing volunteers.
David.
Thank you. I just wanted to let everybody know and remind everybody again that tomorrow night in this room at 7 o'clock, there'll be a hearing on the zoning articles for town meeting by the planning board. There are 3 articles. You can get the list of them from the planning board agenda.
Thank you. Fran, Jim? Okay. Thank you. And my apologies for skipping that section. Next to Jim, reporting on the perambulation of the bounds.
Okay, I'll get started while Tom brings up some, visual aids. So the bulk of the work for this project is complete, but the report is not ready. So I should say up front that I'm going to be asking the board if they would be willing to have me continue to work on this report even after I'm no longer on the select board. It does seem as if the law allows people to be selected by the select board to work on these matters. So I'd appreciate that bit of support. But the data has largely been collected. What Tom is showing us up on the screen is a typical one-pager for each of the monuments. In this case, this is the one that's behind the big water tower at the end of Ethan Allen Drive that represents the corner of Acton, Boxborough, and Stowe. And when Tom scrolls down a little bit, he'll see that we have maps. And why don't we go to the next page just to show, how these can look different. That's the same. These are all painted. There also are a bunch that were either not found because they were documented, but we couldn't find them. Or it seemed like they would be legally required, but no one's ever located a monument at like certain street crossings. Others seem to have disappeared in the midst of either development or road construction. And there were some that we couldn't paint because they were so tilted and buried that we couldn't even find a place to put the year 2025 on them. So that's that summary. Why don't we look at the next little, it's basically talking points to remind me what to say, of things that will be in the report when it's done. The first is a reminder that this has been a law for a long time. So I enjoyed finding these 1646 Laws and Liberties of Massachusetts is what they were called back in the day. There have been a variety of names of the state's laws. They're currently called Mass General Laws, or MGL. But each time that this body of law has changed its name and been rewritten, some version of this has proceeded. This original note from 1648 is where the 5-pound penalty was mentioned, which got changed to $5, but back then 5 pounds was a lot. Now it's not much, and that's why most towns don't bother doing this. And the reason that Acton and other towns are beginning to take this up again is more for reasons of civic pride and historic research and historic preservation. Let's go on to the next one. This was a key document for us. This is one of us. Many dozens of volumes written in 1904, 5, 6, describing where the boundary lines were, where the boundary markers were, and with both little maps and with wonderful descriptions involving street names that we have no idea about anymore. So street names change a lot, I learned. So it's important to also have coordinates. The other big push was in the 1830s. We found a number of monuments, as Dean and I were walking around with people, where the year of the placement of the monument was chiseled in. There were a lot that were 1831. But since 1904, not much. There's been a revival in the last 20 years or so. Why don't we go on and look at the next section? So these are some things that are going to happen next. I'm close to an interactive map so that people can see where the monuments are or are not and why, with other information. I think it's a fun story to tell, so I think there's a presentation in the future which could get filmed. And in terms of policy recommendations, what Dean and I came to see was that these are best treated as historical objects. They're no longer the technical definition of where the boundaries of the towns are. That's now in coordinates. But they're important and interesting, so it's important to know where they are. And there are some that are broken and fallen. I think it would be worth looking at over the next couple of years how to restore those. It's in the law, this falls to both towns, so this would be a series of conversations with our many neighbors about, hey, do you want to have a joint, can you talk to your community preservation committee and we'll talk to ours and we'll get some money together and, fix a few monuments up. There's five or so that are, not in good shape. The other thing we're thinking was, so we're going to these historical objects, these granite markers stuck in the ground, and then we're taking black Rust-Oleum paint and writing the year, 2025. It feels like vandalism sometimes when we do it. So I would prefer if we could come up with a less intrusive marking system. I noticed that online, that if you buy large granite blocks, they will sometimes have a small, clear plastic stick-on piece with a QR code. Very small, and I think that would be more appropriate and could also point people towards information about these things. I know when I first saw them, like the one at the Acton Boxborough Littleton corner, I thought it was a place where high school students would go and write the year, because I know they write the year, their graduating year, on a lot of objects, or at least they used to. It's not a good idea, but they used to. And I thought this was just another one of those. This is just like some weird rock in the middle of the woods with the year written on it. So if we had a little QR code there, we could be educating people that come across these things. There's also a couple of monuments that have been lost apparently in the process of development. And it could be that the developers know where they are. So that's a little bit of further research that can be done. What's on the next page, Tom? Oh, some photos. Okay. So here is what we will gather is for each monument, we'll gather the photos that were taken. And in some cases, we'll notice that we're missing photos and we'll go back and take them. But this is the Acton, let's see, if you go up a little bit, it will remind me where this is. Oh yeah, no, this is the Acton Concord monument that's on the old, what Concord thinks of as Old Stowe Road, which is again, another abandoned road just north of the train tracks. It used to be called Parmenter Road in the 1904 report, and we did find evidence of a Parmenter Road that went all the way, through the Graceland, but then ended up in Maynard. And yet there still is a tiny little section of road in Maynard called Parmenter Road and I'm sure people have no idea of its grand history as an intertown highway. But there it is. Concord has managed to paint it a couple of times, but has forgotten about it for the last few decades. I looked at their last bounds report, and they didn't. They admitted that there was something called Parmenter Road. They had no idea where it was, and they couldn't find it, and they sort of thought it was Knox Trail. And same with Acton. It's got a few years on it, but it's been missing. So we now have painted the 2025 on it. What's the next image? And then I think I'm done. Oh, this is the big one. This is probably the easiest one for people to see. This is the one right near the senior center, right near the electrical substation. And you'll see here, this is the Sudbury, Maynard, Concord, Acton corner, the only four-way corner we have in Acton. So it's got that, special bit of awesomeness to it. You'll see the Sudbury one in the middle. They've been very regular. Getting there every 5 years. They did do this thing at some point where they whitewashed the monument in order to write the years in. That means we've lost the numbers that were written from previous years, which I think is a little sad, but that might be in old Sudbury records. Concord has a whole variety of styles of how they wrote the years. Maynard has done this once. They also were in the sad position of, this used to be the corner of Stowe, before Maynard existed. And when Maynard existed, came into being, the natural side of the monument that would have been Maynard's had already been taken. So they sort of have this odd angle that doesn't really point towards Maynard. I think that's it. There's probably a picture at the bottom. Oh, yeah. There's, people happily working away. Each time we went, we contacted the select boards of the towns we were near, and sometimes they sent staff, and sometimes they sent select board members. And we had a few members of the public who also were interested in coming. So it was a fun event. We went out about 5 or 6 times, met with different people each time, and I'm looking forward to finishing off that work by having something to present to people. There might be questions, and maybe there would be a motion to allow me to continue to work on this.
David?
Yeah, one question is, for your map, is that hosted on a town server? Or is that not hosted, or is it hosted on your own server?
The future interactive map, right now it's on Google Maps.
Oh,
So it's
is
out
there-
in the cloud.
Is
So
there?
we are going to take the coordinates of where the monuments actually are and put them in a town GIS layer. Yeah.
Okay,
And
good.
then the GIS team has also prepared one of their iPads that I can take out when there's less snow on the ground to get even more accurate coordinates than the ones I could get from my phone.
Oh, great. And in the report, the only request I would have is that you have recommendations on any monuments that need restoring or need anything else. And Mr. Chair, I have a motion if you'd like one at some point.
Alyssa?
Thank you to Jim and Dean and all of the volunteers that accompanied you. This is so much fun, very exciting. I love history. I'm excited about the possibility of an interactive map, and also the QR code on the monument sounds like a good idea instead of all of the painted dates. I'm wondering, once you have a QR code, do you then do the update every 5 years virtually rather than on the monument itself? Does that work into the general laws?
We would still be, if we didn't actually do something to the monument every 5 years, we would still be subject to the $5 fine. But since no one, I think, has been charged that fine for 100 years or so, I think we'd be okay.
Well, maybe an electronic update will be a good enough action, just like where we switched easily from £5 to $5.
Okay. And I'd just like to thank Jim. It's been a very interesting process, and I've enjoyed accompanying you and being your chauffeur.
You're a much better painter than I am, too. Yeah.
David?
I move to appoint Jim Snyder Grant to produce the perambulation report for the Select Board and to report back to this board later in 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? Comments? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so approved. Thank you, Jim. Our next item, I think, might take a little bit of time, John, so maybe we hold our public hearings beforehand. And to eat up the next 4 minutes, we'll go through the consent agenda. Item 13, approve request to amend business name of common vitular from Dunkin' Donuts to Dunkin' Donuts / Jimmy John's at 182 Great Road. Item 14, approve amended intermunicipal agreement for automated bike share program. Number 15, accept donation of $1,600 from Middlesex Savings Bank towards cost of Acton 250 event on June 14th, 2026. Item 16, accept a donation from Wendy Scully for $1,250 towards the cost of Revolutionary War restoration of cemetery markers. Item 17, approve request for use of town roads for National Brain Tumor Society ride on May 17th, 2026. Item 18, approve letter of support for Planning Division and Sustainability Office application for the FY27 Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs Planning Assistance Grant for the creation of a bicycle and pedestrian plan.
I move to approve consent items 13 through 18 inclusive.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so approved. We still have 3 minutes before the next hearing. Jim?
I would happily ask a question about one of these items, one of the consent items that we just approved.
Please do.
Mr. Manager, in terms of the bicycle and pedestrian plan, I was wondering if I could get a copy of the actual grant request, and I'm also wondering if we'll make sure to have the Transportation Advisory Committee involved in some way in this project.
Sure, thank you. This is an effort being led by Planning and Sustainability. The applications are due, I believe, the first week of April. I'm not sure that we'd have time to bring it to TAC to get feedback, but we certainly would share it with TAC. And then if we get the money, they would be one of the groups that we work with as a stakeholder to move it forward.
Great, thanks so much.
Okay. First item, site plan special permit 3/19-25-493 Suburban Glass and Mirror at 60 Powder Mill Road to redesign and expand the current parking lot. And the applicant has requested to withdraw our application without prejudice. And I believe we never actually opened the hearing to begin with, so I don't think the board needs to take any further action on that. John?
I was hoping that would be the case. I think that planning is saying that the board needs to open it and then consider whether it wants to accept the withdrawal without prejudice, which would then allow them to resubmit it someday. So it is a requirement, sorry.
Okay. Except I don't have the legal notice. I don't know if anyone who's got a computer has got the legal notice.
Well, there's two scheduled for 6:30. So we can do the other one first,
Sure,
and you won't be wrong.
let's do that. Okay, so our second hearing is consider right of first refusal pursuant to General Law 61B for real property located at 46 Taylor Road. This is a continuance from the previous hearing. I think everyone, so you've got a number of members of the audience who look familiar out there. So the board met in executive session earlier tonight and discussed this purchase. There's still some issues that we're working on, but we certainly welcome input and comments from members of the public who might like to come forward at this point. Please come up and use the mic so everybody can hear you. Thank you.
Are we allowed to comment if we already did at the last hearing?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Hello, I'm Bettina Abe. I live on School Street, and I implore you to vote to exercise our right as a town of first refusal on this piece of property. We can't do this without you. It's the first step. Allow us to bring this to town meeting so our fellow citizens can have the chance to vote whether or not they want to buy and protect this last piece of open space for the Acton Arboretum, a place that means so much to so many in your community. If you recollect what this Center Park looked like in 1986 and compare that memory to now, then you'll realize there is nothing we can't do collectively. Mark Twain said, buy land, they're not making it anymore. Yes, we really do need this specific piece of property. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hello, Renee, 26 Taylor. First of all, kudos to you guys for keeping track of everything going on in town. I see Alyssa like just all over town. So it's a lot of work. I appreciate that. 46 Taylor is a special parcel. Like Bettina said, I second everything she said. You can't just make land. It's there, it's in its natural state. We should really be trying to protect it, not just for us, but for the future. For my grandchildren's grandchildren's who are gonna come back and visit me, you know, whenever I'm buried in the cemetery, they're gonna come visit the Arboretum. It's the location, the land, we have to do it, we have to act on it, you know, so I really encourage, you know, you guys to support it and to vote to bring it, just like Bettina said, to town, to be able to vote however that works out. The parcel just has a lot of potential, you know, sure, it's full of invasives and this. When I moved into 26 Taylor, my whole backyard was invasives. I got poison ivy up everywhere, right? But, you know, diligence, a little bit at a time. We got control over it, you know, and then we started taking care of the Arboretum. We learned about the garlic mustard. We learned about the honeysuckle, about the bittersweet, about the black walnuts. There's a whole generation behind me, my kids, that want to learn this too, and I teach them. And they're hungry for information. So it's like a great opportunity to teach that generation also. I'm sure we can get a whole bunch of volunteers to help clean up that land and the invasives, and if we need to plant some native species, I don't worry about that at all. I think the important part is that we have this opportunity right now, and we need to take advantage of it and really do what we all want to do in our hearts and make sure that we are really, you know, thinking about the future, not just what we see today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess it was on, thank you. Tom Wolf, 14 Sawmill Road. In general, I support the purchase of the property, but I did want to float an idea. If the price of the property becomes a prohibitive factor, is it possible for the town to purchase the property and then subdivide it, selling the street front, the front part of the property to a developer to build some housing, and retain the back part closest to the Arboretum as conservation land? It might be an interesting compromise. That back part is probably not very developable anyway due to wetlands, so it's probably more valuable to conservation. I just wanted to float that idea and see if that is a possibility to buy the land, subdivide it, and use the funds to selling off the front part of the property to help subsidize the cost.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a number of issues have been raised and questions raised, and yours is not an uncommon point. But I think one of the problems we run into is depending upon the source of the funding. I'm not sure that it's possible to purchase the land with CPC funds and then subdivide it and sell a piece of it off. So there would have to be additional funds brought in to underwrite part of that purchase, which would have to come from town general funds. And at this point, we've not had that discussion. I don't know if any of my colleagues care to weigh in on that or not. Okay, thank you. But certainly, we're looking at all options at this point. Any other questions or comments about 46 Taylor Road? All right. At this point, I think you probably saw some indication at our meeting 2 weeks ago that there's a strong interest amongst some members of the board towards purchasing the property, but we're not prepared to take a vote at this point. We're going to be continuing this hearing until the meeting on April 6th, and we hope to come to a conclusion at that point. I see the town manager leaning towards his mic.
Sure, just if there's a motion made, 7:30 would be the time to continue it to.
Okay, David.
I move that we continue this hearing until April 6th, 2026 at 7:30 PM.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. And we'll take this up again in 2 weeks, or several weeks. April 6th. So I'll read the notice for the public hearing for Suburban Glass and Mirror. The Acton Select Board will hold a public hearing on March 16th, 2026 at 6:30 PM, continued from February 2nd, 2026, in the Francis Faulkner Hearing Room 204 at the Town Hall, 472 Main Street, Acton, and virtually at actonma.gov/meeting/BOS on the application of Suburban Glass and Mirror for a site plan special permit under zoning bylaw section 10.4 at 60 Powder Mill Road. The proposed project consists of redesigning and expanding the existing parking lot. Application materials and how to participate remotely are available online at Acton Town Hall, doc.acton-ma.gov/view/collection-19067. And the applicant has requested to withdraw his application. Could I get a motion? He has to withdraw the application without prejudice.
So, Mr. Chair, you might want to ask for public comment first, and then I'll make that motion.
Public comment. Okay,
I move that we accept the applicant's request to withdraw their application without prejudice.
Second.
moved and seconded to allow the applicant to withdraw without prejudice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Done.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, he
You
opened
just
it.
opened it.
Yep. Okay, motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Oh,
Moved and second. All in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Closed. All right, We have another site plan special permit hearing in 5 minutes. I can't read the application yet, the notification yet. So. Yes.
Do you want to try item 12?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you. I appreciate that. So we, as you know, we did an RFP to sell 3 and 13 School Street. The person that, or the developer that's was chosen based on the RFP process was Alex Moda. His development proposal is in the works, and he was supposed to have everything fully permitted before the closing, which was scheduled for the 27th. He's asking for 90 more days to sort through that. So I just was asking for the board to approve an extended date for 3 and 13 School Street, which is 90 days later than what was initially proposed.
Okay, David.
I move that we allow a 90-day delay for the closing of the sale of 3 and 13 School Street.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to allow the extension. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, done.
Thank you.
Maybe we can take up item 11. Assign, review, and take positions on town meeting articles. Only get 2. Article 9, Minuteman Regional School District Assessment.
So the assessment is in the warrant, the number that we received from the school district. They are actually presenting to the Finance Committee on the 24th of this month, but I think the board could take a position tonight if it feels comfortable. I know that the member of the school committee for Minuteman is here if there are any questions about what's being proposed.
Okay. Any questions? David?
Can I just say that the amount in the draft warrant, which I believe is correct, is $3,295,792.
Okay, thank you. David? Oh, Melissa?
Would you like a motion? I move that we recommend Article 9.
Second.
Moved and seconded to recommend Article 9. Any comments? All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. And we need for somebody to be assigned to that.
I think we assigned Jim last time.
Jim Steidergrant. Thank you, Jim. Okay. Article 25, approved transfer station and recycling enterprise budget.
This is the budget that we use to operate the transfer station recycling center. It's funded through fees and also some retained earnings. The last time this article had a few numbers that still need to be finalized. Those are now finalized in this article, so it's ready for your consideration.
Okay, any questions? Jim?
I think we covered this in the budget hearings, but maybe memory is short. So the certified fund balance is, falling, 100 and something between 25 and 26, and almost more than 200,000 between 26 and 27. My memory is that that's a planned change, that the fund balance had gotten a little high, and that we've been using that money to make capital expenses for the transfer station. But I wanted to confirm that that's what was going on.
Yes, that's correct. It also is just some fluctuations with the contracted services that we use to dispose of recyclables, to recycle recyclables and dispose of trash.
Okay.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion? David?
I move that we recommend Article 25.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments? No. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And an assignment. Alyssa. All right. All right, we're now comfortably at 6:45. The Acton Select Board will hold a public hearing on February 23rd. I think this is not the, unlikely we're holding a hearing on.
March 16th.
Okay, hold a public hearing on March 15th, 16th, 2026, at 6:45 PM in the Francis Faulkner Hearing Room 204 at the Town Hall, 472 Main Street, Acton, and virtually at actonma.gov/meeting/SB on the application of Primrose Schools Financing Corporate Company for site plan special permit under zoning bylaw section 10.4 at 457 Mass Ave. The applicant proposes to construct a two-story, 14,134 square foot childcare facility. Application materials and how to participate remotely are available online and at Acton Town Hall at doc.actonma.gov/view/collection-19896. The applicant has requested a continuance to April 6, 2026 at 7 PM. David.
I move that we continue this public hearing until April 6, 2026 at 7 PM.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor of the continuance, please say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, okay. We are continued. John, are we prepared to take up item 5?
Yes, thank you. So Insulet Corporation moved to Acton in 2018 or 19 or so. One of the big reasons to incent them to come here was a TIF agreement that the Select Board negotiated and town meeting approved. At the time, our largest employer in town was the school district. And here we are 8 years later, and our largest employer is now Insulet. And they have developed, so they redid their headquarters at the end of the Nagog Park, and then in the last few years, they also developed some flexible warehouse space for part of their distribution. They're interested in growing. It's a growing company. It's a very successful company. We're proud to have them headquartered here in Acton. And as they're continuing their growth, our Economic Development Office has been working a lot to try to get them to grow here. So we understand that they are working on a potential acquisition of another piece of property in Nagog Park neighborhood, or street, rather. And I'm asking the board's support in doing whatever we can to negotiate a similar TIF agreement to the one that we did last time, which would incentivize them to invest in a property in Acton, and it would it would bring a property back to productive use. And while some of the incremental tax growth would be waived under a TIF agreement, it would still be incremental tax growth. And once the waive period ramps down, it'll be growth within the commercial tax base, which, as the Economic Development Committee and the Long-Term Economic Development Plan points out, it's something that we sorely need in this community. We're below 10% of the community is below 10% of our tax base is commercial and industrial, and this is a wonderful opportunity to try to improve that situation by encouraging them to grow here in Acton. So a lot of the details about what they're proposing to do will need to be announced later, but the issue that I wanted to bring out publicly and before you tonight is request for your support to work with them on some type of arrangement, which would, of course, be brought back to the board. It would have to be an article on town meeting, so there's a placeholder in the warrant right now. I would propose that we work with them over the next 2 weeks and come back on April 6th with something that is the framework of a TIF, and if the board's comfortable with it, include that in the warrant and move forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions about what's being discussed or proposed, but I think it's a really exciting opportunity for us.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Alyssa?
Thank you, John. I just have a question about the timeline. There's sufficient time to discuss this in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, on April 6th, ahead of when the warrant goes out to print. And is there any requirement for a public hearing for a TIF? My understanding is no, we can just discuss that, approve it as a board, and then put it on the warrant for approval at town meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, so what we would do is we wouldn't negotiate a deal and put every business term of it on the town meeting warrant. What we would do is, and similar to what we did last time, and actually we did a TIF for Natural Stone Solutions on Knox Trail a few years ago. We asked town meeting to authorize the selectmen to enter into a TIF agreement under terms and conditions that it feels are appropriate. We could outline what those are, and I do think that we have enough time to do that with the board next week and provide enough detail to town meeting to see if they support or see if it supports us.
Thanks. I think we did have quite a bit of detail that we presented to town meeting voters for that TIF. So something similar would be good, but then no public hearing, correct? Okay.
Jim?
I'm in favor of proceeding with negotiations. There was one bit of language you used, John, that had me concerned, so I wanted to check it out with you, which implied that, we would basically do anything to make this work. And I suspect you don't actually mean that. I mean, I know there's limitations within what a TIF is allowed to do, but I also want to make sure that I don't need to know what it is, but I need to know that you have, in your mind and with your team, you have the town's, a bottom line for the town that you're not willing to, step over. So that we know that it's an actual negotiation as opposed to, here, tell us what you want and we'll say yes. It's not a helpful attitude to take towards a large corporation.
Sure, I can assure you that that's not the approach to negotiations that we would take. I think we should do whatever makes sense and whatever we can do to keep businesses like that here in Acton. And I think a TIF agreement is a pretty structured arrangement. There's not a lot you can do besides give them a discount on their incremental taxes. So I think as far as that goes, it's not like we can give them everything. We can give them a tax break on their investment. And that's what I'm proposing.
Thanks.
David?
Yeah, I'm in favor of this for a number of reasons. The employment in the area is great, the tax base is great, so I think we should move forward and see if we can come to an agreement.
Fran?
I'm in agreement as well. I think this is a smart thing, and we would want to keep Insulet in town.
Okay, any comments from the public?
Deborah Symes, Concord Road. I think I have 3 things. If we don't do this, they're not threatening to leave town, right? I'm looking at John.
I mean, that's not something we've discussed.
Yeah.
I hope that's not what they would do.
I'm just, the phrasing about keeping them in town was what made me go.
Well, I think what I said was if they're going to grow, we'd like them to grow here in town.
Grow here,
which
right.
is
Got it,
Which
okay.
is a great opportunity for us.
Okay. Can we know what parcel they're looking at purchasing?
35 Nagog.
Thank you. And the only other thing I want to ask is that when you do whatever the negotiate, assuming this goes forward now, whatever the negotiation's going to look like, I seem to remember at least, I don't remember honest to God which one it was, but one of these in the past decade or two, in which what was laid out at town meeting was actually a sort of gradient table of, in this year they get this kind of discount and, and that lasts for X amount of time, some kind of term, and then there were several steps in it. So is that the kind of thing you're thinking about? As opposed to just,
Yeah, I think, so that one was, I think they had 6 months to work on that one before town meeting. We have a couple
TikTok.
weeks. So I think we'll provide as much information as we can.
Okay.
And I think there's certain things that are known. The assessed value of the property is a
Yep.
known entity. The investment that they're proposing to make is something that we can estimate, and we can use that to determine what level of increment. So in the past agreement from 2017, it was a 20-year arrangement.
Right.
That the first 5 years was 100%
Right.
waived, and then 75%, then 50%, and then 25% each 5 years. That's not necessarily what we would do in this case, but that's what the town agreed to last time. So I think we'll come back in a few weeks with more details about
Okay.
that.
Thanks.
Jim?
I had a question for Alyssa, I think. You've spent a lot of time with RAC and with the Water District, and in the past, there was, I remember this astonishment of understanding how much water Insulet was using. And is that still an ongoing concern? Is there still an issue with them, using more water than is available, or, more water that would be competing with other water needs?
Go ahead.
The only thing that I can tell you is that the projection for water use was very, very low than the actual water use. How many gallons, I don't know. And then I can also share that one of the things that I discussed when we were presenting the MBTA communities and Habitat for All was that we have done such a great job of conserving water in town that we're not anywhere near our maximum draw. I think we are about 500,000 gallons per day under the limit that the DEP sets for us, Department of Environmental Protection. So that's all I can tell you. I don't know what this expansion, how much water is going to be required and whether or not that's going to match what they say, unlike last time, 8 years ago. And I actually had a follow-up question for John, if I may. I'm sorry if I missed this, but did you give a percentage of how much this growth is? Have they shared that with you, and did you share that with us?
No, so that would be the work that we do now. So the deals you can exempt anything from 5% to 100% of the incremental.
No, sorry, I mean their growth. So you said they were the largest employer, they've overtaken the school district.
They're tied for first place.
Okay, they're tied for
technically, but-
first place, but do we know, are they growing their business by 20%, 50%? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, they're growing substantially. They're an international company. They have a presence overseas as well, and they have the opportunity to expand anywhere, including outside of Massachusetts. So we actually have a partnership with the governor's office to work to make sure that businesses like that stay in Massachusetts. And my goal and my recommendation is that we do things within reason to keep them here in Acton.
Okay, John, would you like a formal motion and a vote?
Yes, please.
Someone care to make one? David?
I move that we ask the town manager to work on negotiating a TIF agreement with Insulet's new, a potential Insulet new building, and bring it back to the board in a future meeting.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, approved. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Item 7, discuss options for Independence Day celebration for 2026.
Good evening, board members. While Tim makes his way on up, I will give you a brief overview of how we got here. First, I'm pleased to introduce for the first time formally to the board, Tim Mikowski, who is the new Parks and Recreation Director. Since joining, Tim's hit the ground running. He's got camps up and running. He's worked pretty hard on getting field permitting out there, so this is another piece that's landed on Tim's plate for the Independence Day celebration. So how did we get here? We got here in late 2025. The board considered, or took a vote to reconsider Independence Day and what it would look like. And the final vote looked at alternatives to a fireworks celebration and alternatives to a July 4th date. What came out of that meeting was a July 3rd date with potential for another date, and then some feedback. Ideas about some laser shows, some sort of light show that would still give a visual effect for people who wanted to see that around the holiday, community event. So since then, Tim and his team have gone back to the board and to the drawing board, and they've connected with the laser show light technician, with different bands, vendors, and found out a little bit of information that he's here and prepared to discuss tonight. There is a memo in the packet that outlines everything we're going to discuss, but I'm happy to turn it over to Tim at this time.
Thank you, Tom, and it's nice to meet everybody. So the Recreation Department developed the two options for the Community Independence Day celebration at Nara Park, focused on family activities, live music, and a patriotic themed ceremony. Both options are operationally feasible, and they do not require anything taken from the $40,000 appropriation made for town meeting for the fireworks funding. And tonight, we're seeking the board's guidance for the preferred event date so we can move forward with planning. The main differences in the two options that you see in front of you, the first one being the laser light production was only available on Tuesday night, or on Thursday night option, which would be July 2nd. And then the July 3rd option, just for your consideration, in the original conversation, there was some concern that was spoken about in regards to previously authorized PTO that was put in, and also whether the payroll that would be run on that evening. So the Friday consideration for July 3rd would take into additional payroll with the overtime, because the holiday for non-public public service would be on the Friday, since the holiday does fall on the Saturday.
Okay. Thank you, Tom and Tom. And to our new Tim and Tom. So, Tim, thank you for this, and you certainly got dumped into the deep end of the pool, didn't you? Welcome. Thoughts from my colleagues about the two options? Alyssa?
Thank you for working on this. I am in favor of the Thursday evening, simply because we discussed a lot about the importance of illuminations, some kind of illumination. So because the laser show is only an option for the Thursday date, and also I like the idea that this could be less expensive in terms of payroll, but also attract a larger crowd, because people might still be here before they take off for the weekend. So I'm definitely in favor of that Thursday, July 2nd option.
Thank you. Other comments? David?
I'll just say I agree.
Fran?
I was leaning toward the Thursday option as well.
Jim?
And I think we should have to read this quote at the actual event, but here goes just for the first sentence. "The second day of July, 1776, will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America." And that was John Adams. And so I think July 2nd has plenty of historical resonance.
Who am I to argue with John Adams? So I think you've got consensus from the board. David?
Just one, both of these events, or either of these events, would be free to the public? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And I hate to throw a monkey wrench. Is the laser show a definite, or is it necessary, or do people want a laser show? Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm the stick in the mud.
So at the request of the board, we did do research, because that was something that had been brought up at your previous meeting. It is not necessary, but we do have them on standby for that date.
What is the price?
So the largest cost is going to be the band, which is going to run us between about $7,000, $8,000, and then the laser show is going to cost approximately an additional $2,000.
Do you also want a bonfire?
I was just thinking more homey, read the Declaration of Independence, not all this pomp and circumstance. That was in my head.
John
Sorry.
said no to a bonfire. So you'll have to come over to my house for marshmallows before we go.
Okay, I think you've heard the board's interest and concerns. Unless anyone else has any questions,
No, do you want a motion?
let's go for a motion.
I move that the board endorse the proposed Thursday, July 2nd show at Narrow Park.
Second.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments? Alyssa?
I'm wondering when would be an appropriate time to discuss the reading of the declaration? If we want to do that now or closer to the, I can't see that this would come back to the board for a discussion. Because it usually doesn't. We usually don't take up the business of the 4th of July celebration.
Well, we're kind of running ahead of schedule, so
We are.
why don't you?
I'll just say one thing then. So I'm definitely in favor of this commemoration of Independence Day. I think the Declaration of Independence is a very important part of that. I do think that there is language in the Declaration, and it's conveniently at the very end, that it would be, I'm trying to think of the word, indefensible for us to utter those words, regardless of whether they are in the historic document or not. So I'd like to just offer that as my position, that the derogatory racist language not be read out loud at an event in our community in the year 2026.
Well, I'm not sure to know the exact phrases that you object to, but my point is that, yeah, this is our community, but we're also part of the United States of America. This is one of our founding documents. And I think the whole idea about trying to edit history to pursue whatever agenda you might have is the wrong way to go. And if we're going to read the Declaration of Independence, which I hope we do, it should be read in its entirety. Alyssa?
Oh, Fran has a copy. So I'm not going to say it out loud, because as I said, I think that it is indefensible. I also think that it would be in direct violation of this board's respect for all policy and probably the code of conduct that we have on the wall outside the door. So I think that we can definitely acknowledge that the document has flaws and yet still celebrate the principles of the document and the ideals that are set forth. And I encourage you to read the phrase at the end and see if you change your mind.
Could I just ask her to identify what sentence it is in? That's the end.
Oh, right here. It's a reference to the indigenous peoples of the land, and I'm not going to read the very derogatory, racist words, but the phrase that follows is, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. So I feel like we can definitely include the grievances that the colonists had against the tyrant king, but we could just maybe cut it off at that point. So just wanted to share that now, and we'll see where it goes.
Jim?
It seems like there would be more educational value in not quietly cutting it out, but to plan for something like the person continues to read, some volunteers come onto stage and speak over that, and drown it out. So it's noted that, oh, there's something in there that people are so upset about that they're willing to stand up on stage and speak over people and make it clear. I'd be happy to be, play that role, for example. But it brings some attention to it without sort of, pre-editing it in advance.
David?
So I just will say that, the paragraph that we're talking about is the fourth paragraph from the end, and the last issue or problem with King George. I think there are a number of ways to identify this, to read it and identify it as being either in the beginning or the end, and we could think about those and discuss those further, right? I don't know if I have the optimal solution right here, but one of them is, as Melissa proposes, skip that paragraph or the part of the sentence. We could have, as Jim says, have people talk over the speaker, or shut off the microphone during that paragraph, I think the educational value comes from speaking to it. Anyway, I'm not claiming to have the best solution. Perhaps we could come back to this. We do have a couple of months. Several months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the general public who might be listening to this conversation and scratching their heads and saying, what the hell is going on with the select board, might care to weigh in over the next couple of months. I'll move on. I think their Park and Recreation Director has an understanding as to what we have agreed to so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will keep you updated as we move forward with planning.
John, item 8, approve change to Acton Power Choice contract.
Okay, so this is pretty complex stuff. Fortunately, we have an expert in the room, Paul Gromer, Paul's helped us through energy procurement for several years, and he's going to break down what we're working with here. I'm not even going to try, so I'm going to just take it from the top. Thank you.
Thanks very much, John. So I'm here to give you an update on the Acton Power Choice Program and to discuss 3 issues. And as John mentioned, it's a little complicated. There was a background memo, I think, in your packet. So the 3 issues are, one is a request for an increase in the price in the program. The second is an opportunity to modify the program in a way that would offset that increase and even could produce a decrease. And the third is an opportunity to enter into a new contract or an extension to the current contract that would enable you to lock in a longer-term price below where your current price is. The particular reason to think about that third issue is your current contract ends at the end of the year anyway, so over the next several months, you'll need a new contract. And it's a volatile time now in the energy markets, as you know, and a lot of upward pressure on prices. Let me go through each of those issues quickly. The first, the request for an increase, is a repeat of a discussion we actually had almost a year ago now. Your program, like all programs like this, has a provision in your contract where if there's a change in the rules or regulations after the contract is signed, and that increases the costs for the program supplier to supply the program, they're entitled to increase the cost to cover that increase. This came up almost a year ago. The town agreed to a change at that time that was based on an estimate of what the cost of this program would be. The program has turned out to be even more expensive, much more even than was anticipated 9 months ago, and the supplier has come back again and said, could we have another increase to reflect these costs that were higher than we had thought? The way the town dealt with that last time was you offset the increase by changing the percentage of extra renewable energy in the program. So offset an increase by reducing the costs, and we were able to keep the program price the same. You have an opportunity to do that again if you wish. Again, offset the increase by a change in the renewable energy content. If you change the voluntary renewable energy for 2026, you almost offset the increase dollar to dollar, pretty close. You might want to also think about changing the renewable energy for 2025, which would actually produce a decrease. So why would you want to do that? The reason is that, unfortunately, the renewable energy world has changed quite significantly since the town decided to put additional renewable energy into your program. The purpose of putting that additional renewable energy in is to create a market demand which will cause new renewable energy projects to be built. Unfortunately, the actions of the federal administration in blocking new renewable projects, canceling permits, and other things has put the state in a situation where for the next 5 years or so, developers won't even be able to construct enough new renewable energy to meet the state minimum, let alone something over and above that. And so in this world, for a town to buy additional renewables can't have the effect of causing more to be built because developers can't even meet the minimum. There's an additional factor which makes it even worse, which is that the state has decided to take some money that was paid towards this requirement, and instead of using it for renewable energy, as had been said, it's being used to fund rate decreases for customers. So the state has said, we're going to prioritize reducing costs over renewable energy, so we're going to take this renewable energy and use it to provide discounts. In that world, when towns like Acton pay extra for extra renewables, indirectly it has the effect of increasing the pot of money that gets distributed across the state. So given this, many towns are now rethinking their decision to add extra renewables. To ask, like, how could we go back and change 2025? How could we do that now? You can do it because renewable energy supplier or energy suppliers buy the extra renewables in the spring of the following year. So we're actually at the time now where the 2025 renewable energy would be purchased. And the reason you might want to do it is, in addition to saving money here, it's actually quite similar to what the state did, where they collected money for renewables through electric rates, did it in 23, 24, 25, and then decided later not to spend that on extra renewable energy, but instead to return it to ratepayers. So what the town would be doing would be very similar to that. If you take that step of changing the renewable energy content for 2025 and 26, you would get enough for a savings off the current rate. And then what you could decide to do was reduce rates now, which would be the period from May to December, and then knowing that they'll go back up again in December when a new contract would begin. Or instead, you could carry those savings and blend it into a new long-term contract, reduce the price of that, enter into a new contract in May for another year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever you decide, at a price below your current price. That's a mouthful from me, so I'll stop there and see if there are questions.
Questions? Jim?
Thanks. That was, between that and the memo, I believe I actually understood what you were saying, which is probably I'm missing something, but it did make sense. Because we've always been, wanting to understand whether these rec payments would lead to additional renewable energy projects. And it was, it was a tricky question before, but now it's not tricky. It doesn't. And to have Acton pay for people across the state to have slightly lower electric bills, it's very generous, but it doesn't seem in line with the goals of what we're, trying to do here. So I think some variant on your suggestion makes a lot of sense. One question I had was, why is it that doing something now for a new contract or getting it done soon, why is that less expensive than waiting? Doesn't that imply that we understand what's happening with energy prices? And I thought we never did. I thought it was always, pretty mysterious.
Yes, no, that's a very good point, and there are two aspects to it. The main point, the second one, is you're completely right. We can never know for sure what the future of energy prices will be. And that's particularly true now when prices are extremely volatile, and they're up a good bit since the start of the war. Although mostly what's up are oil prices, which don't affect electricity prices so much. It's natural gas prices that affect electricity prices. Those are up too, but not as much. We can't say, or I certainly can't say, where will prices be a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now. One thing I can say with some confidence, though, is that if the current situation doesn't change, when we start to get closer to the winter, when there's more demand for natural gas, we're almost certainly, we're very likely to see a big bump in prices then. And that certainly, the conditions are much like what we saw in the early days of the Ukraine war, where there was a shortage of natural gas in Europe, and that caused electricity prices here to double or more. So if the town were to lock in now, prices are higher than they were a month ago. Who knows where they will be a month from now, can't really say, but at least you're protecting against a risk that they really jump up in a few months, which is one of the possible outcomes. The other part of your question was, though, and a really good one, why can we save now? The savings that are for sure is this carrying forward the savings from the change. So you could reduce prices for 6 months and then bring them back up, or you could take those savings and kind of blend it into a new rate and get a lower price that way. And then you don't have to go down and then up, you could just go steady.
David?
Thank you, Paul. I do understand this, and I think it's a good idea to take the savings and blend it into the future rate, either to 2029 or 2030. I did want to, it does say December there. So, I guess if I was just choosing myself, I would choose to the end of 2029. But I say that for a few reasons. One is Acton Power Choice has, up till now, done pretty well in keeping our electricity prices lower than Eversource. And I think it's important to continue that, as our reputation. And also because in today's environment, giving folks any more incentive to convert to electrification, to convert to electricity as a heat source and things like that is a better use of, better strategy than trying to invest in RECs which don't exist. So, I would propose just in my preference to the December 2029 or December 2030 blended rate of 15 cents a kilowatt hour.
Other questions or comments? The one I'd make is, I think I'm glad this has all come forward, and I'm glad that you've made it as clear and folks can read it if they check the select board's packets, because amongst some portion of the population, there's a great deal of skepticism about renewable energy credits, and the fact that, we've sort of uncovered this situation, and we're being very transparent about it, I think everyone should find reassuring. The other issue that I have is liaison to our Council on Aging. Seniors are very concerned about all costs, and the next thing they worry about after property taxes is energy costs. I've got a meeting with the COA board tomorrow morning, and someone last week sent me a comment about what can be done to make sure that we keep energy costs as low as possible for the senior population. So I think I'll second what's already been said. I think blending and extending for the maximum period of time. Years ago, when I was in charge of the energy contracts here for our town buildings, we tried to get as long a period of time as possible. In that instance, because it made things much more predictable for our municipal budget, but I think for the general public, their home budgets will be a lot more predictable if they know what the rate is going to be for as long a period of time as possible. So I'll kind of second what David has said. Other questions or comments? All right, I guess the question for you and John is, would you like a motion, or do you have, and I think I've got one person from the public would like to make a comment. So, Deborah, please come up.
Thank you, Paul, thank you. I have the wrong glasses on, so I can't really see what I wrote. Okay. May I ask Paul questions? Thank you.
Try to keep it short, though.
Yeah. You've met me. How would this unfolding scenario, if we go in the direction that you are sort of laying out for us, how would that interact with our green and our basic options within APC? That's one thing. Also, when it comes to when we're starting to think about a next contract, I hope that you will speak at that point, because you usually consult with everyone, to just talk, and this is hilarious coming from me because I've been such a champion of Class 1s, but to talk about what role national recs might play. And then the other thing I hope we'll talk about is what role an adder might play in a next contract. But the first and sort of burning question for me is, does this collapse all of our things into one level, or is there some way to preserve, particularly, the basic and the 100%? Thanks. Yours. Was I fast?
Yes, so thank you. So that's a great question. The background is the program has three options now. You have a standard one, and then you could buy extra renewables, or you could buy zero renewables by choice. If you were to go ahead the way we've been talking tonight, the standard product and the basic would become equivalent. The price would be the same, and the renewable energy content would be the same. But the town could continue to offer a 100% renewable product, as you do now, as an option for those folks who choose it. That would be your choice. One thing you might want to consider is, well, people have chosen this voluntarily, maybe not take it away from them, tell them about it, and let them decide whether they want to stay in it or not. That would be your choice. There's no reason, from my perspective or from the program's perspective, why you couldn't continue to offer the 100% green product for people who want it.
Okay, thank you. David?
Do you have any idea how more expensive that would be if we kept 100% green? Or would be, maybe it would be worth choosing something in the middle?
Yes, you certainly could choose something in the middle. It would be about the same increment over basic that it is now, so it's about an extra 2.5 cents over basic. So if you were to go with a price, say, of 15 cents, that would make the 100% green about 17.5 cents. If it remained 100, you could certainly choose a middle option and offer three, but it would be two versions of opt-up. That would be a choice.
I'm sorry. I think it would be good to keep the 100% green for those who might want it, and also to retain the people who've signed up for it, right? Because if we are able to offer a better deal on it in the future, we would have to recruit those hundreds of people that are in the green product now. Of course, we can let people know what the new prices are, and if they choose to go to the standard, that's fine. The basic, we may be able to get in the next month a community solar add-on to our aggregation plan, which would become kind of the new basic. So I don't mind collapsing the basic out for now.
Alyssa?
Can someone remind me which is the default? Is it the basic or the standard?
The standard.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, I'm torn on what to do with the 100% option. I do think we want to keep it, but I think we do have a duty to communicate what it means now, which is you're voluntarily paying more money into a fund that ends up lowering everybody else's electric bills. And that may be what people want to do. Maybe they just want to stay there until it changes, because at some point it's going to change. But, you know, I don't want to be, you know, fooling people. I want to communicate clearly. And I know that other towns have done this. Other towns have said, you know, yeah, this program's here, but you know, you might not want it, and here's why. If you did this for environmental reasons, then here's the newest environmental explanation of what happens with that money. And I think that's probably better than doing something like switching to, you know, what I think of as greenwashing, sort of, you know, fake Midwestern wind wrecks that, you know, don't really play any role in helping to buy power, and don't even help lower people's electric bills.
David?
I was just wondering if you said 2.5 cents premium for 100%, is that linear, or is there a sweet spot somewhere in there? So for example, if we just wanted to keep people on our rolls, not impact them enough, I completely agree with Jim, whatever we decide, we want to be clear to everybody what we're doing. But if 60% is a sweet spot now, maybe a much smaller increment, maybe we could do something like that just to keep those people around.
It is linear, so it's the same price for each additional percentage. So you could choose whatever percent you want, but there's no bulk discount for buying a higher percentage.
All right, I think we've got one caller online. We'd like to hear a comment.
Calling user 1, you just have to unmute. Calling user 1, it looks like you're unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me? It's Tara from up here, Mass App. I have a question regarding what I just heard, and I want to make sure I understand.
Go ahead.
Are you saying that, oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's Tara from up here, Mass App. I want to understand what I just heard, and I think what I heard is because of various factors that if you have 100% what you think is, have always thought of as green energy credits or whatever else, however else it's done, that if you do what you're saying, that the person with the 100% no longer is actually contributing to sustainable energy, all of their money is going to lower rates. All the extra couple percent are going to lowering rates across the state. Is that what we're saying? So it's no longer a environmental play, and it's a like energy cost justice play. As some people will just use it to enrich their already privileged resources, but then it could actually help a lot of people who could use a 2%. I guess it's spread over the state. But anyway, I just want to understand whether this is at all what you're proposing doing makes the program not an environmental play at all? That's what I guess I'm asking. Thank you. I'll take my answer offline.
Paul?
Yes, and so this, I was speaking for a little bit, simplifying things a little bit. So to expand out the explanation, for a customer who chooses to buy additional renewable energy, additional RECs through the program, that person does get the REC. So if you sign up through the program for 100% RECs, you get 100%. No question about that. When we talk about the money going into a fund that goes to others in the state, we're talking a bit about an indirect effect. So we're talking about what happens when you are buying those 100% RECs. We used to be able to say, well, that's creating a demand and more projects will get built. But in today's world where there isn't enough renewable energy even to meet the minimum, electricity suppliers make up that shortfall by making a payment to the state. And that payment to the state is now what's being distributed to other ratepayers. So when you just decide to buy extra as an individual, you're getting that extra, but the effect of it is to take money out of the pool of RECs that's available to meet the minimum, and so it means indirectly you're causing more of these payments. So it's a little yes and a little no is the answer to the question.
Thank you. Other questions? Deborah?
Yeah, I have one quick clarification. So when we were talking about, looking at 60% or collapsing, levels, that would all be in the next contract period. That doesn't affect the current contract, correct? We can't change the design midstream, can we? Or can we?
It would get very complicated if you did.
So better not to. I think it's better not to. Okay, thanks.
David?
So just to be clear for Deborah, we are talking about the next contract as well.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay.
Okay. John?
I think it would be helpful for me to try to explain what I learned tonight, because I think that maybe the folks listening at home started where I started with this one. I think we're asking the board to do two things. The first is to agree to back off on the default Acton Power Choice plan, which was buying, I think it was an extra 20 to 30% of RECs, whatever that was. We did that for environmental reasons, and because it's now no longer an environmental issue, we're recommending that you back down from that and reduce the rates for the Acton Power Choice people, which is everyone in town. That's the first thing we're asking. And then the second thing we're asking is to, going forward, change the next contract so that there are just two choices, the standard or the 100% green, right? And then the standard will have the minimum purchase of RECs, because it's not clear that buying any more than that has any environmental benefits. How did I do?
You did great, and I think I would just add one thing, which is, in addition to everything John said, I think a question for you is, do you want to do the blend and extend? So start the new contract starting in May, and so have effectively a lower price going forward, or do you want to do it in two steps, which would mean a drop from May to December and then a bounce back up with a new contract in December?
Okay, David?
So that's why it's not necessarily two things. It could be one thing. And I'm in favor of the blending, because if we do it in two steps, people see their electric bills artificially drop, and then at the end of the year, they're going to go higher than they would have gone had we not do the blended, right? So, and that down and up, I'm sure everybody would be happy about the down, but everybody will be unhappy about the up, and then the up would last for several years, right? And if we delay the decision on the up because of the current Middle East hostilities and other things, we don't have any idea where we would do it. So if we don't do it tonight, if we don't do it starting soon, then it could be higher than that. So for that reason, for more even bills for everybody, it's already slightly lower for people on standard. And so we're going to see a very slight drop and a very steady rate, rather than a big drop and then an increase.
Okay. Other questions? Jim?
Just to remind us, the actual details of the contract don't come back to the board because there is a very tight window between putting things out to bid and needing to sign the contract. So we end up putting this in the hands of the town manager and Paul, and I'm comfortable with that. But I think, so I think we can, but I still think we can give the kind of general direction that, that's been outlined here. The blend and extend, so just nice rhyming words, it must be a good thing. I recommend that.
Okay. We've heard from at least two in favor of the blend and extend, actually, three. But we should put that in a motion. If anyone care to make one. David?
Be happy to put it in a motion. Just before I do that, feedback from the board as to whether we should go through the end of 2029 or the end of 2030.
My own feeling is the longer the better. Jim?
Yeah, and my other feeling, though, is that that might depend on the details of the pricing when it goes out to bid, so I'm happy to be vague on that and let the town manager and Paul figure out what's the best move. But I agree, I mean, if it's close, it's better to go longer.
Alyssa?
I'm looking at the table that was in an email that I thought was going to be turned into a slide, and I haven't seen a slide, so I think we should have that information put in the meeting packet for the public, but I don't see a difference in the rates between 2029 and 2030. So I agree with Dean that we should go as long as possible, and I'm in agreement with the blend and extend option.
David, we're ready for your motion.
Yes, I move to authorize the town manager to negotiate a two-tier blend and extend option with just the standard and green options through December 30th, December 2030.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any other comment? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are ready to go. Thank you. John, I think we've got another energy-related item coming up.
Yes, thank you. So the board just authorized us to do something that essentially takes a sidestep on some of the environmental goals that we have as an organization, but will result in a lower rate for ratepayers, right? So that's a positive. That's a good part of that. I think the next item is just to confirm that you support us doing the same thing with municipal electricity contracts. We had an individual contract separate from Acton Power Choice with similar purchase of RECs at 100% local. And so we'd like to do this back off in the same fashion for the town ones, and just wanted to make sure the board supports doing that as well. And is there anything else on that?
Not from me. I wasn't involved in that specifically. I could speak to the general issues, but.
It's the same premise.
The sustainability director is online, by the way. May I?
Yes, I can address questions, yes.
So the, it's not really, it's also abandoning our climate goals, right? Because right now, because these RECs used to go into a fund that clean power developers wanted, so they would build clean power so they could get money out of the fund. Now that the state's giving away that fund to lower prices, that's not there. Besides that, there's not enough clean energy. But the lower electric rates, in lieu of that, lower electric rates do help electrification. And so it does help clean energy goals. It helps them for the town in the next item on the agenda, and it helps them for the people in the town for the last item on the agenda. Anyway, I'm also in favor of the town's contract, which lowers the new contract would lower electric rates for the town about 3 cents a kilowatt hour, a little under 3 cents a kilowatt hour.
Okay, other comments? Not, ready for a motion?
I move that that the board agree to the proposed municipal electrical contract as outlined in the packet, which reduces the town's cost of electricity.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we've got that one handled. Thank you. Yes, let's go back to the, was noted by my vice chair that we did not call for a vote on, that we're going to have the Independence Day event on July 2nd. So, all in favor, just so we'll have a formal vote of having the event on July 2nd, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Just for the record, that's now been recorded. Acton Leadership Group update. John.
Thank you. So the Acton Leadership Group met last week, and as a group, it decided to make a minor adjustment to revenues which would resulted in a net deficit of 0 for FY27. So the ALG process, the goal of the ALG process every year is to solve the budget year deficit and balance the budget. So we completed that task. I think similar to last year, I think the only remaining item for the ALG to discuss at its next meeting is whether there's consensus on the rest of the forecasts in the plan. We took a lot of time and effort to fine tune and actually add detail to how we're forecasting in future years for expenses. We're still pretty conservative with revenue estimates, but we tried to be more precise with forecasting for expenses, and I think it adds a lot of value to the plan. It was a good suggestion by the Finance Committee, and I think it works. And as we learn things about some of those line items, we can make adjustments to forecasts accordingly instead of just dealing it in bulk, which is how we've always done it. So I think it's a good improvement, and I think we posted an agenda for March 26th, but the actual date of the next meeting is April 2nd, so we're gonna have to fix that. That was my bad. I think I wanted it to be March 26th, and I tried to will that to happen, and so we need to fix that. But in any event, as I said, the plan was published. It's published now in the packet, and it's in pretty good shape as far as ALG plans go.
Thank you. Any questions? Alyssa?
John, I just have a question about a discrepancy that I saw in the warrant versus the spreadsheet. So in the draft warrant that's in the packet right now, Article 4 spending is at $42,322,565. But when I checked the spreadsheet for the March 26th, which is actually April 2nd meeting, it says total municipal spending, sorry, strike that. The total municipal spending in the spreadsheet is different than the total in the warrant. So there's $43,851,840 in the warrant, and then $43,901,840 in the spreadsheet. So I guess just check on that. I don't think that they should be different. But we can address that at the ALG meeting, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me. Well, I have it partially in front of me, but not fully in front of me to know exactly what you're referring to. But I think we will certainly double check to make sure the numbers are right in the warrant.
Okay. And I think that in the warrant, there's an updated spending proposal. So it says FY '27, but then in the table, it says the percent change from FY '25 instead of FY '26. So that's another thing to look at.
Okay, yeah, I think,
I'm sure you'll fix it. I just
Well, yeah,
got very confused.
if you could just, we could maybe look at this offline. If it's just a typo, we can address it.
Okay, any other points on that, questions? No? In that case, I think I'm ready for one more motion.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Moved and second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We're done. Thank you.